Hi, and in this very short video, I just want to make a very quick reply to a short video that was sent to me about an exhibit in Sweden about anti-Semitism. And this was a presentation exhibit that the person who sent the short film to me saw in passing in Sweden and at a public building in Sweden, and he went ahead and recorded it. He did like a detailed recording of the whole exhibit, and I was able to look at it several times and read it. And yeah, I detected what I call biases. Not biases in the sense of distorted information, but biases in the sense of omitted information. Right? The exhibit, started, giving sort of like a definition of what anti-Semitism is, and then it went, the first segment of it is anti-Semitism in Christendom, in medieval Christendom. During the Black Death in the 1300s, in the mid 1300s, toleration of Jews was one of the things that the Catholic Church, pointed out as possible reasons why God sent the plague. So Jews all over Christendom were rounded up and burned. And that history is actually, technically, that is the first Holocaust. The second, the Holocaust that took place under Nazi Germany in the 1940s is the second Holocaust, because this Holocaust in the 1300s, where Jews all over Christendom, Western Christendom, were rounded up systematically and burned, sacrificed so as to appease God, was done on the premise of the idea that the Jews killed Christ. So in order to appease God so that God would take away the plague, then they burned the Jews, right? One of the things that was not tolerated in medieval Christendom was Jewry. They call it Jewry, right? The 5 things that were against the law that carried the death penalty in medieval Christendom was heathenism, heresy, sodomy, witchcraft, and Jewry. If you were guilty of any one of those offenses, you get an instant death penalty. And to be considered guilty, all that was required was 2 witnesses. They went by the 2-witness rule. So, like Jehovah's Witnesses, the 2-witness rule. Okay, in medieval Christendom, they also went by the 2-witness rule. All that was required was for 2 witnesses to tell the local parish priest that you were engaged in Jewry, or sodomy, or witchcraft, or heresy, or heathenism, and that was the end of you. You would be killed. So, because they believed that if you were allowed to live, it would offend God and turn God against the village. So they had to eliminate you. That's what happened in Europe with the Jews. Now, this exhibit went ahead and showed that. The Christendom, right? Medieval Christendom. And then it talked about anti-Semitism, during the Nazi era, the Nazi regime. It went ahead and put Jewish people in. First, it rounded them up and put them in the ghettos, the ghetto in Warsaw and other ghettos. And then ghettos were walled areas where Jewish people were forced to reside in urban centers occupied by Nazi Germany. Right, and in 1943, in the Warsaw Ghetto, there was an uprising of Jewish people who rose against the Nazi occupiers or whatever. The Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. But then what happened is, of course, eventually after the 1943 Wannsee Conference, where Himmler and Heydrich and Eichmann and all these people participated in it. And they decided that to come up with the final solution for the Jewish problem. The final solution for the Jewish problem was, of course, they went and got a contract. They solicited IG Farben, who was a chemical conglomerate, to manufacture Cyclone B. It was the Cyclone B pellets that then you would put through like a shaft, and when it fell down, it would dissolve, and the gas would kill the people in there. They put the Jewish people in these places that were. They told them they were going to take a shower, a disinfection shower, and it was, in fact, they dropped Cyclone B capsules or whatever, and then when they dissolved, the gas killed the people in the fake showers. Okay, so the final solution for the Jewish problem was gassing the Jewish population, right? That was in the ghetto. So they liquidated the ghettos and transported the people from the ghettos to the extermination camps, Treblinka, whatever, etc. Auschwitz, whatever. There's many of them all over Poland, I think it was mostly. But so the exhibit talks about that, the final solution, the roundup of the Jewish people in the ghetto, the final solution, whatever. It didn't talk about the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, and I wish it had a little thing about that. The Warsaw Ghetto Uprising should have been included in the information there, because the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising is the Jewish people didn't just take it; they fought back. So that's very important to include that information. That the Jewish people fought back in Warsaw, at least. They were overwhelmed by Nazi Germany, but nevertheless, the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising inspired the resistance movements in all over Nazi-occupied Europe, like the French resistance and the Yugoslavian partisans and whatever. So, yeah. So that was there, the Nazi thing. Then they went into like the Eastern Bloc and the Soviet Union, and they said that, and they had a little quote there about in communist dictatorships, Jewish people, there was anti-Semitism, officially sanctioned anti-Semitism. And it shows this picture of, I think it was in some Eastern European country, with people carrying some placard saying Zionists to Israel or something. Like they want to deport the Zionists. Yeah, the problem is that it omitted one crucial piece of information, that in 1934, the Soviet Union set up the Jewish Autonomous Oblast, which was to serve as a homeland for Soviet Jews. And it was supposed to be a polity, socialist in content and national in form. And I've made another video about it. I'm not going to repeat myself. And then another piece of information around that same time period, 1934. In 1939, the United States government refused entry to the MS St. Louis, which was a ship carrying 900 German Jews that were fleeing Nazi persecution after Kristallnacht. Okay? Right after Kristallnacht. And which happened I think it was in November of 38, I think it was. And then in May of 39, these people were fleeing Germany, and they took the ship, the MS St. Louis, to the United States, and the Roosevelt administration turned them away, refused them entry. Then they went to other countries. They went to Canada and to Cuba. And Cuba back then was not the Cuban Revolution. Cuba in the 1939 was run by like the United States. It was like a neo-colony of the United States, run by the American mafia. They also denied entry to the St. Louis, and Canada. Canada also denied entry. That information is omitted from the exhibit. Those are two cases. The fact that the United States and Canada refused the Jewish people on the MS St. Louis entry proves that there existed also anti-Semitism in the so-called Western democracies, okay? Because in that exhibit, they criticized the anti-Semitism of the communist dictatorships, but then they omit the anti-Semitism in the so-called democratic countries like the United States and Canada, okay? Which Canada was part of the British Empire, and the British Empire was far from being democratic, okay? Let's just be honest there. Okay, so that information is omitted from that exhibit. The exhibit that I'm reviewing here, and the video that my friend sent me, I uploaded it prior to this video so you can see the exhibit for yourself, okay? All right, then fast forward, and it has a section where they discuss the anti-Semitism debate in Israel. And it says there, criticism of Israel is not anti-Semitism, but equating the policies of Israel with those of Nazi Germany is anti-Semitism. And I'm sorry, I disagree completely. And, because the conditions in the Gaza Strip are almost identical to the conditions in the Warsaw Ghetto, okay? The Gaza Strip is walled by security walls and fences, and Palestinians are not allowed to leave or enter there except through checkpoints. They're not allowed to leave. In the same way as the Warsaw Ghetto, Jewish people were confined to the ghetto in Warsaw, and they were not allowed to leave. They had to go out to smuggle stuff in and out. The Nazis starved them. In the Gaza Strip, Israel does not allow for, strictly controls the entry of humanitarian aid, food, fuel, and other things the Palestinian population lives. I mean, the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, the Gaza Strip is the world's largest open air prison, they call it. It's like a cross between a South African apartheid Bantustan and the Warsaw Ghetto. Okay? I'm sorry, but stating that is a fact. It's a fact. It's a fact. So I'm sorry. I disagree with the exhibit on that one. If it barks like a dog, it is a dog. Okay? And the Gaza Strip barks like a dog, and the bark sounds a lot like the Warsaw Ghetto. Okay? And let's be honest about that. Yeah. And finally, yeah, they also had, yeah, well, this exhibit, is, yeah, it's a good exhibit. Overall, it's a very good exhibit, and it's very good that, in Sweden, they're trying, Levan de Historia people are doing this. It's an NGO or whatever, Living History. But yeah, I mean, I just have one question to ask, why should the Palestinians accept that their lands and their homes are stolen and handed over to white Jewish settlers? Why should the Palestinians accept that? Why should the Palestinians accept that just because the British Empire said so, their land is to be turned over to these people, these white people from Europe, Jewish people from Europe and the United States or whatever? Why? Why should they accept that? Why? Because they're people of color? Is that it? I mean, because supposedly the white European Jew and American Jews are of more value than the colored Arabic people or whatever, or the Palestinians. Is that the reason why? And it reminds me, there was this tract I read one time. I forgot the name. It was by this woman. She's like she was like she was a woman that was close to Yasser Arafat, Hanan something, and she wrote an article, a tract called "The Anatomy of Racism," about racism in Israel against Palestinians, coming out from the state of Israel, officially sanctioned racism. So, that exhibit that I reviewed previously ignores that. Okay, totally ignores that. So yeah. It was. I would say that exhibit from Levan de Historia is 70% good, 70% good. But there is a 30% that is criticable. So yeah. Anyways, I leave it at that. Please look at the previous video, the exhibit video. Look at the exhibit yourself, and then look at this video. Okay. So, well, I should have said that at the beginning. I'm going to put it in the description. First, look at the exhibit, and then look at this video. Okay. Bye.